Hi there. The purpose of this video is to show you how to finalize an Excel workbook file. This is important not only for this class, but just for general professional Excel usage. When you want to share your Excel files with someone else, you want them to be prepared. You want the files to be prepared for that other person to see, and you want your workbooks to look good. Okay? So there's 5 general areas I want you to look at for this. The first is looking at the view. Second thing is which cell is active, the active cell. Third thing is to look at the print preview. Fourth is to arrange your worksheets in the right order. And the fifth is to set your zoom level correctly. Okay. So looking at a file here, this is a good workbook. The work itself is good, but the file is not ready to be viewed by anyone else. It's just not. It's not finalized. The first problem is again the view, normal view. The views are down here in Excel. This is normal view is here, but this workbook is in page layout view. So when you finalize your Excel files, you want to be in normal view, okay? That just shows no margins, shows nothing but cells the whole way around. All right, the next thing is to look at the active cell. The active cell in this workbook is cell I-45. That is not cool. I mean, look, there's nothing, it appears that there is nothing in this workbook because the active cell is not cell A1. So how do we make cell A1 the leftmost, top leftmost cell? Control home. Control key. Look, there we go. That's the keyboard shortcut. Control home, which shows us, yes, look how, I mean, this is actually a really cool looking workbook that we just couldn't see. All right. So the third thing we want to look at now is the page orientation in your preview. 3 things to look at in your print preview. So let's go to print preview up here. Okay, and this looks pretty good, except look at your page numbers here. This is page 1 of 2. So let's look at page 2. What do we have in page 2? Oh my gosh, that's not good. Just one little column and a line there. That's not good. So what we want to do is we want to set the page orientation to match the orientation of the data in your worksheets. So how do we do that? Well, I would go back, and I like to zoom out so that I can see the shape, the general shape of my data. That's using the zoom sliders down here. I want to see, kind of blur my eyes and look at the shape of my data. Is this data taller than wide, or is it wider than it is tall? Well, this data is wider than it is tall, so you want your page layout, your page orientation to match that, and that is here under the page layout tab in the orientation button right there. Set it to landscape, and nothing seems to change here. So, well, something subtle changes here. We get the new dotted lines right there. But if I'm going to, let me zoom back up to 100% here, just to get that's about where we were, and then we'll look at print preview again, and look at that. We're down to 1 sheet, and it all, so this all your data fits on 1 sheet of paper. That's nice. Now that brings up the next problem, though, is we want to center our data horizontally on the page, and that's in the margins dialog box. Or you can also do it here. We can go to normal margins here, go to custom margins, bring up the page setup dialog box. In the margins tab, center the page horizontally, click OK. Notice how our data moves to the center vertically, the vertical center, that is the horizontal center of the page. It moves horizontally across the page to center itself. Okay, so that's much better. That's already looking better. Now, the third thing I want to look at here in print preview is we don't want you to group the sheets. We do want you to print the entire all of the worksheets. Now in this case we have 2 worksheets. We have a documentation sheet and a projected water usage sheet. We do not want to group the sheets. So that is if you select all of your sheets, you have your sheets grouped, and you can see group up here in the title bar. You do not want that. You want 1 sheet to be selected And then when you go to print preview, you want to print not the active sheet, but the entire workbook. What does that do? That now gives us 3 pages. And there's our documentation sheet, but what's on page 3? Well, we need to fix that as well. So, what do we need to do to fix that? Well, let's with our page orientation, we probably need to do landscape on that as well. Yes, that helps. That takes us down to 2 pages. Once again, let's change the just to set the horizontal center of this page, and that moves that to be horizontal, and now our 2 pages look pretty good there. All right, but let's continue. The next thing is we want to arrange our worksheets in the proper order. We want the most important sheet to be first. In this sheet, in this workbook, we have 2 sheets, one of which is the documentation sheet, and again, look at the active cell A34. Control Home to make that cell A1. That now gets us here. So looking at our 2 sheets here, we have a documentation sheet, which is kind of like a cover sheet, and then we have our actual data. So in this case, the most important sheet will be the documentation sheet. So I'm going to drag that sheet over to be the first sheet out of the 2, so that our first sheet, the most important sheet, is first. Okay. The next thing is we want to select that first sheet. So we don't want to save our document like this. Okay. Whatever the first sheet is, which is the most important sheet, we want that to be the selected sheet, the active selective sheet when we save. Okay, and I just saved again to save all my changes so far. Now one more thing here, this is this documentation sheet, it looks kind of small. So the last thing, set your zoom levels to 100%. Okay, so in this sheet, the documentation sheet, we're at 80%. So put that at 100%. Go to our other sheet, check that. That one's at 100%. That's good because I think I said it earlier. So, all right. So once again, make sure that both of our sheets, cell A1 is selected with Control Home. That the most important sheet is first and it's selected, and then save. I'm going to look one more time at print preview. Looks like we're printing the entire workbook. We have our first documentation sheet first, and everything is centered. Page 2 is our second sheet. Everything is centered. Everything looks great. If you can do that much, those 5 things, to guarantee that your Excel workbook is finalized and ready to go, then when I grade your work, I'll be happy and in a good mood. And when you give your workbooks to other people to share, they will have a clear view of your professional work. I hope this helps.